his Delphi, hopefully with a better mic this time, I don't know. Basically, I'm just gonna get right to it because disaster keeps on striking every time I try and record this video. I'm gonna do an overview, just about everything that you need to know about SynthV, because there's not a real English manual, and the video tutorials are a little over-explainy or under-explainy. So I'm just gonna very simply go through just about everything you can do. Some of these things are pro only. If I'm not aware that something is pro only, I will add a little P or something in text and post. Or at least I'll try to. Anywho, so we'll start with the arrangement view. This is the arrangement view. As you can see, it shows all the different tracks on your song, shows the measures. It also shows groups. So this is a group here. And if it's a group, I can move it. I can even move it up and down. One really weird thing is that usually overlapping is not allowed. However, it's apparently perfectly fine if it's in a group. I don't know why you'd do that. That's real cluttered, but it's something you can do. You can also set the voice here. You can also disband the group here. Cut, copy, delete, you know all that. Set the voice here as well. This is the volume. This is the stereo panning. This is mute. This is solo. Pretty simple. Yeah. This makes a loop. You can also do it down here. Now, let's look at the piano roll. Piano roll is very similar to other vsynths. Specifically, it's very similar to Vocaloid with its parameter line here, which we're going to talk about in a second. But there are some things that it can do that Vocaloid can't, which are pretty cool. So first of all, we are in select mode, and I guess I'd call this note mode. You can switch to pencil mode or pitch mode. You can't see what changed there, but we will talk about it. So first of all, some simple things when so you can select a note. You move the note, double click, you make 1 beat's worth of a note. You right click, you split a note. Right click again, you make them into a group. Or you can insert lyrics. Something to note here is let's see. If I wanted to use this, I can explain. To make sure that, since there's 4 notes here, to make sure that explain isn't all in one note, you do a plus right after it. 1 plus for each syllable that is added onto it. So I can explain, and I changed the phonemes here, but there you go. That's another thing you can do. If you click on the phonemes, you can change them. There's another place you can change them. We'll get there. And if they are changed, they will be green like that. These buttons, what do they do? So first button shows us the pitch line, the basic pitch line. As you can see, it's grayed out, so you can see the lyrics. And this is mostly what you'll be looking at. Next, this is, from what I can understand, the pitch changes that come from aspirations or changes in phonemes. So natural pitch changes that really can't be avoided. Which shouldn't be avoided because that's what makes them sound human. This is not present in AI voice banks, and I do not know why. Next, this displays the waveform, so we can see the shape of our vocal. And finally, this shows where the phonemes are placed in the waveform. So we can see that, for example, the B is long, but very quiet. That's an example. So what about the pencil tool? Pencil tool is pretty cool. You can drag and make as big a note as you want. But there's another cool thing you can do, and that's what happens when you switch to pitch mode. Whoa, what just happened? Well, some innovative technology just happened, because guess what I can do now that I'm on pencil mode in pitch mode? That's right. Freehand pitch shifting. And as you can see, it gets added to the pitch line on the bottom here as well. Speaking of which, let's look at the parameter line. So the parameter line also has some similar stuff. It also has the pencil tool. On both ends, if you right click and drag, it'll erase everything you did. You can also use the line tool. And you may notice these little dots here. These little dots they're called anchor points, and we can select them and move them individually. Finally, these things alter the pitch line very slightly in its shape. As you can see here, like this makes it a little bit more linear. This makes it a little bit more curvy. This makes it a little bit more rounded. Very slight changes, but if you're a real stickler for that kind of stuff, then it's helpful. It's helpful for you. Let's quickly change from tension to pitch deviation. So that's just something I just did. Now I just made it so pitch deviation is on the display. So what does that mean? So let's just change the tension for a second. What is tension? I will get there. Don't worry about it. So I just changed the tension. I'm gonna push this again. Now, while I'm editing the pitch, I can see the tension changes. That way I can edit around it if I'm working together with two parameters. You can also change whatever parameter is appearing on the pitch or edit panel, I guess. Finally, these two buttons are sort of zoom out, I guess is a way to call it. So see how it says 30 cents here? If I push times 2, that becomes 600 cents. So you can pitch bend even higher if you want. Or 4, that goes to 1200 cents. Which again, I wouldn't advise, but you can do it. And finally, just really quick, if you accidentally X out, oh my god, what do we do? What do we do? We click on this, add parameter panel, it's back, don't worry. Don't worry, everything's fine. Let's briefly go through this menu. Most of it is pretty self-explanatory. So new, open, save, we all know how this works. Import and import tracks. So import will open a VSQ or UST as a new project. And import as tracks will do the same, but add it to the project. So let's say you have a UST that, because of how it works, you have the main UST and then you have the harmony UST. You can import the one UST and then import as tracks the harmonies. And then you have one big project, which you then need to save as. If you don't save as, it will not save. So please do that. For export, you can export as MIDI or the current group as a UST. But Delphi, how do I export it as audio? We will get there, don't worry. This is all cut and dry. This is also all cut and dry, or at least it will seem cut and dry when I am done. Just important here is the snapping is here. You want to change that. Modify. So modify, we can then start seeing some interesting things. So I'm going to switch to Maki AI for this little part of the demonstration. Oh yeah, forgot to mention this. If you connect these, now as you can see, pitch mode and note mode change together. So I'm just going to do a brief little something here. Okay. Let's go back to select mode. Let's select these notes. All right. So we can reset phonemes. See, reset. We could reset the pitch properties. The pitch properties are not actually what's going on in the pitch line, nor is the timing and phonemes. I do not know what reset detune notes means. Nobody seems to know what it means. If you know what it means, please comment. It is the one thing I couldn't figure out. Simplify parameters. So let's undo this. Let's go to pitch mode. Let's select all these. So there's a lot of anchor points here, which can make it difficult to edit if you like editing with anchor points. So what do? We push simplify parameters, and now there are less. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Next, we have auto pitch tuning. I believe this is a pro only feature. But it's a pretty cool one. So if we click it, while we have notes selected, we get this menu here. We get the improvisation and the seed. Don't worry about the seed. The improvisation is basically how much like vocal flourishes and fanciness do you want. 50 is usually good. So let's push it. Let's see what happens. Well, it changed our tuning. Let's see how that sounds.
Maybe things are fine in the
So
maybe things are fine in the boy closely.
sounds pretty good. Good job. Well, let's say we're not a fan of it. We can rerun with a new seed. Small changes, but we keep doing it. Maybe we'll get something interesting. Got a little sharper there. You can also rank up that improvisation. No, it actually didn't do much in that case. Well, it's a bit unpredictable. So experiment with it. See what happens. If anything, it can give you some good ideas for what to do. So, yeah. Next project. This is all really simple. So we're not gonna go there. This is also very simple. We're not gonna go there. Scripts. Scripts are interesting. So scripts are kind of like plugins or mods or whatever you want to call them. And they work really easily in SynthV. They're really easy to work with. So basically, some of these come just with SynthV. They get added in with updates. And some of them are not. The ones that I'm going to talk about in particular do come with the program. But if we want to add new ones, we just go to Open Scripts folder. Got our scripts folder. And then there will be a .lua file in whatever you downloaded. You put the .lua file in the scripts folder. And you are good. You're all done. Then you just push rescan and it should show up. So some scripts that I think are really cool is aggressive vibrato is pretty cool. What that does is actually I won't get into it. It's a cool mod. Basically it the vibrato will get more intense as the note goes on. But the really cool ones are remove short silences and silent skipping play. Those two I think are the most helpful. So remove short silences. Basically, sometimes you're going to open up a VSQ or UST or a MIDI or whatever, and it's going to have all these little SIL buttons all over the place, and it's going to sound terrible. What do we do to fix it? What we do is we go to remove short silences in the scripts menu. It gives us the threshold we want. 2 3/4 is usually pretty good. You can change the scope to whatever you want. Do the entire project, why not? And it will make your VSQ or UST or whatever not sound terrible. So another cool thing is silent skipping play. So let's move a little bit. Now, we're on the chorus, remember? So let's push silent skipping play.
Maybe things are sliding the boy closely.
So notice that it just completely skipped that big silence. So basically what this does is if you're replaying your song and you just want to skip a big instrumental break, you don't want to have to skip through it every time, use silent skipping play. Finally, the neural network's performance tuner. I do not know if this is a pro only thing. I'm pretty sure it is, because if you are in basic, you are stuck in speed mode rather than performance mode or power balance mode. So basically what this thing does, I'm not going to push it right now, but what it will do is it will run some tests on your computer and basically make changes to its rendering system so that it is not killing your computer's RAM and running slow, and also sounding nice and crisp and beautiful. So that is very helpful. If you're still having problems, you can edit it manually. I honestly don't know how each thing works, but it is there for you and we will get there. So we've gotten through all the stuff that I need. Now I gotta move. Whoop. Now I'm over here. And we're going to just talk about the panels, which are the bread and butter of SynthV. So first, the note panel. Let's go all the way up. Let's use this, for example. Actually, let's use a nice and unedited note here. So, pitch transition. What pitch transition does is we can change the pitch just using these sliders for the transitional parts of the note, so the left and right. So, for example, depth left goes all the way down. Bring it negative, it goes all the way up. Depth right, same thing. One cool thing is I can change the duration, and that can make it go on longer, as durations tend to be. Offset will change. You can't really show it here. I can show it here. I change the offset, so notice the pitch transition right here. If I offset it, moves all the way around. So you can do a lot of pitch bending just in here. But it is important to note, as you can see, it does not show up in the pitch line. So be aware of that. Next, the vibrato. Vibrato is pretty simple. Let's put the start all the way to 0. And so now it starts right at the beginning of the note. Depth, You can get bigger or smaller. Frequency, how much vibrato you want. Phase just sort of moves it around, similar to offset. And jitter makes changes to the waveform that are very subtle, as you can see. But if you're really particular about your vibrato, that's what you can do. Timing and phonemes. So strength is usually, as I believe, an AI only feature and a pro only feature, but this little area is not. So first of all, we have the note offset. So for whatever reason you can do this. Let's just listen.
More closely and we
But let's say we wanted to change the offset for some reason.
more closely and we
So as you can see, the end sort of starts over here rather than over here. So if you want to use that, you can use that. Here you can edit the phonemes. You can also, as I said, edit them here. This is where things get kind of interesting. So pay attention. Let's zoom in. Let's change the duration of the end. Let's bring it all the way down. Things changed. Bring it all the way up. Got longer. So this affects, it's sort of similar to velocity, where it affects how long or short each phoneme is. But the cool thing is it's not just consonants, it can be your vowels too. So now that A is going on longer.
and we
So you can see a big difference there. Strength is somewhat similar, but instead of it changing the length, it changes the intensity of it. So let's bring the strength up. This is more subtle
and
versus.
in we
So that can actually very clearly change things. Let's go to Mach-E standard for a second. So let's say we don't like how that and is sounding.
and
Even though it sounds really good. This is a pro only feature, but we're on default now. Let's go to Alt-1. Now I have a new pronunciation.
and
Let's do Alt-2.
and
So not really obvious, but sometimes it can make a huge difference. If you're having a pronunciation problem and nothing is really working, I would really recommend looking at the alternate phonemes. So expression groups for light banks, there's only ever the one. But basically in theory, they're kind of like appends. So for example, like Genbu, I believe, Genbu has a falsetto expression group. So at a certain pitch, you can change it so he is singing in falsetto. I do not have any banks that I can demonstrate this with. I only have AI banks. Oops. But yeah, that's all that. Now, voice parameter. We can change the stinger here as well. And we've got these, let's reset these. So the parameters, what do they do? What will they do? Well, let's go through each of them. Loudness is very simple. It makes it louder or not as loud. I don't think I need to demonstrate it. Tension. Tension is sort of similar to brightness in Vocaloid, I guess. It's basically how relaxed or not relaxed the note sounds. So let's listen to it with -1.
and maybe there are people that have yet to read.
Maybe AI would be better for this, but so that was that. let's go all the way to 1.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
So pretty obvious change there. Very different moods. So use tension wisely. You can make a lot of very cool changes with it. Breathiness. It's how breathy something is. If I go all the way to the...
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
This is no breathiness.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
I'd recommend usually leaving that at 0 unless you're want a real breathy vocal for whatever reason. Gender. Gender should be used sparingly, but we go to like -200.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
That's already too much, but that's on one side, and then on the other side.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
So yeah, let's go back to AI to go at the final thing. Tone shift. Tone shift is kind of like tension, but the tension doesn't change, if that makes sense. So like, again, let's just...
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
I don't know why the T didn't play there, but whatever. Let's turn it all the way down.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
Versus.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
Okay, for some reason that's sounding like gender right now.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
So it's not also gender now.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
So yeah, it changes the tone slightly, so it's either a little bit more in the chest or a little bit more in the throat. If you mess around with tension and tone shift, you can get some interesting results.
And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet. And maybe there are people that I've yet to meet.
Yeah. So that's that. And you can edit all of these in real time, note to note, over here. Just pick whatever you want. Vibrato envelope is the intensity of the vibrato, by the way. And just, draw it in.
And maybe there are people that I've yet.
So yeah. Next, this stuff. We've already been here. What's going on? So basically what's going on is these are the defaults for pitch transitions and vibrato in SynthV. So let's say we wanted vibrato to start earlier in every note. See that? On 2 meet, you can see it very clearly. Let's say we want every note to start up. It can do that. I don't know why you do that, but you can do it. The vibrato, I get why you do. Next, group library panel. Basically what this does is it has all these little groups that it makes, and you can just stick them right in. That's all it does. Dictionary. So dictionary does something that's kind of interesting. Let's put in the word I'm.
I am.
So that's not how I'm is supposed to sound, is it? So let's fix that. I'm. So it shows us the phonemes that's its default. We don't want that S sound, so let's get it out of here. And just push set. And notice it made that change. And now, every time I put in I'm, it's the correct way.
I'm.
So that's pretty cool. Now we are getting to the big boy stuff. So, the render section. This is where we make the audio files. So, simply put, what we do is we push the folder button. You pick the folder you want, or you put in the file thingy, the file destination, and paste it in. You put the file name. So, every file will have, for example, this is Sun Showers pre-chorus. It would be Sun Showers pre-chorus, Sun Showers chorus, chorus harms, verse, etc. You can choose which ones you want to render. And when you're ready, you push bounce to files, and it will bounce them to files. You can change what format you want them in. I believe this is a pro-only feature, or at least this is. You can change it from mono to stereo. You can, so this is a pro thing, the aspiration output. Basically, you can have it set as extra channels, which I don't really know how that works exactly. Or as extra files. I don't really know what the difference between isolated and non-isolated is. But the point is, if we have a lot of breaths and a lot of aspiration sounds that are difficult to mix and is causing you trouble, you can set the aspiration output as separate. And then you'll have two files. You have the non-aspirated file and the aspirated file. You need both to make it sound like a person. But if you have them isolated, you can work exclusively on one and not affect the other. So that is very cool and very useful. Then we got bit depth and sample rate. If you know about audio, you know how that works. I'm not going to get into it. This is really simple. This is just where you check for updates. No updates. None. You can also deactivate and uninstall things here if you want to. And finally, some settings. So most of this is pretty simple. Do we want it to be in English? Yes, for now. What audio do we want? What output device do we want? Sample rate, buffer size. Buffer size, you change this around, it can affect how fast or slow the rendering is. So it's still causing you problems with even after doing that neural network thing. That's what that does. Editor, follow playheads during playback just means that when this thingy goes off screen, it'll sort of turn the page like
Just wanna be better than the
that. Show animated rendering status, that just means that when you change things, you may have noticed that like you see them change in real time. That's what that does. And then show character image. Now we have a friend. Will hang out with us for the last little bit of our presentation here. Finally, we got how we want to navigate things. You can change that. Default note. Parameter options. I wouldn't change any of these, but you can. So high points in freehand mode. That means when you're messing around, you don't see all the points. I suppose when it's selected, there's no points right now, but you'd see them. Auto insert anchor points, you want that. Oh, by the way, there's also, you can create anchor points if you don't have them on a note. So yeah, see? And snap points to 0, that just makes sure that when you right click, it erases to 0 and not to something else. Background threads is another rendering thing. Buffer size, another rendering thing. I would not touch this. If you are in basic, you can't touch this. Can't touch this. And finally, the last thing we have is the keyboard shortcuts. Every single thing in SynthV can be made into a keyboard shortcut. All of it. So you can map whatever you want to whatever you want, including the scripts, which can be very, very helpful. I have my auto pitch set to Control P, for example. Can I see that? Yeah, there it is. I did that myself. And that's basically it. That is all the big features in SynthV. I hope this was helpful. If you still need help or still have questions, you can put them in the comments or put them on my Twitter or put them in the SynthV Discord. SynthV Discord is great. It's full of helpful people who are ready to help you. And it's a really nice supportive community for people who like SynthV, so I'd really recommend you get on there. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I really hope that this recording worked out. Bye-bye.